Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gauda Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gauda Bhakta Vrinda. So we are reading this morning from Madhya Lila chapter 20, which is the Lord instructs Sanatan Goswami, otherwise known as Sanatan Shiksha. Shiksha meaning instruction, and Sanatan being the recipient of that instruction. And who is delivering the instruction? The Lord. So the Lord refers to, of course, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya, the subject of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now Chaitanya Charitamrita is Lord Chaitanya's biography. One of the biographies. There's actually a number of biographies. There's some 7 or 8 biographies of Lord Chaitanya, but not all of them are particularly authoritative. Some of them are a little bit speculative. But by far the most comprehensive and authoritative, trustworthy biography of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The Chaitanya Bhagavat is also faultless. It is more concerned with rasa and the earlier pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Chaitanya Charitamrita, Gurudev says, has more of a philosophical flavour, in many parts at least. Less emphasis on the rasa, which Chaitanya Bhagavat is rasa soaked. So there's less emphasis on the rasa in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, a bit more philosophy. And you could say it's also perhaps a little more comprehensive, although it pays respect to the Chaitanya Bhagavat by not repeating in detail those areas of Mahaprabhu's life that are covered in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. So those are the 2 chief biographies of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jai Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavat. Those were the 2 translated by Saraswati Thakur, so he gave them some kind of what you might call an imprimatur, which is it's actually a Catholic word, meaning that it gives some kind of text authority or legitimacy. It's been endorsed by an authority, a text that's been given approval by a legitimate authority. But Saraswati Thakur also translated and published Lochan Das Thakur's Chaitanya Mangala. Anyway, the Lord instructs Sanatan Goswami, and I can see that we are at the point where Sanatan Goswami has just recently arrived in Varanasi. So he has escaped custody of the king of Bengal, whose name was Hussain Shah. Rupa Goswami had earlier escaped. They were the king's chief ministers. Rupa Goswami was the finance minister of the king, and Sanatan Goswami was the prime minister. So they were occupied the 2 top posts in the king's cabinet. So they were very competent persons, even materially speaking, with huge sums of wealth at their disposal, all the resources of what you might expect from people in the upper echelons of a government. But their hearts were given to Mahaprabhu. However, getting out of the services of the king was not just a simple matter, and they had to employ various devices and machinations and manipulations in order to free themselves from the services of the king. And in the process, Sanatan Goswami was imprisoned. He ended up bribing the prison guard with an eye-watering sum of money, 7,500 gold coins he paid him, and escaping, swimming across the Ganges, and going through the back country route, because he couldn't go along the main roads for fear of being apprehended by the king's soldiers. So he had to go through the back route, through the hills, to Varanasi. And he arrives at Varanasi looking like what is called here a fakir, which a fakir is a Muslim mendicant who does not take care of their external appearance. So they'll wear dirty old clothes, they'll be unkempt in their appearance, like a homeless person, but they're not. They do have some spiritual practice there, but they just don't take care of their external appearance. So he appears at the house of Tapan Mishra, where Mahaprabhu is staying in Varanasi, looking like a fakir, looking like a Muslim renunciate who sustains himself on begging. Except for the fact that he had met his brother-in-law, his sister's husband, who was working for the king of another province. He was in a town somewhere between Bengal and Varanasi buying horses for the government, for his king. It was obviously a horse trading center. So being a wealthy man, he gave his brother-in-law an expensive blanket. He said, at least, it's cold at this time of year, at least have this nice expensive quilt. So although by all other appearances he looked like an unkempt, begging renunciant, he was wearing this kind of high-quality shawl. And at those times, shawls were kind of what you might expect from a traditional Persian carpet. They took a long time to make. They were made by hand. Some of them had intricate patterns, and they're made from the highest quality materials. So they're actually very valuable items. It wasn't like going to like Harrods and buying a 500-pound shawl. It was like maybe going to some, like famous shawl maker and spending 40,000 on a absolutely boutique, one-of-a-kind bespoke shawl or something like that. It was actually a very valuable shawl, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita makes a point of that. So he arrives wearing this valuable item, and we're at this point here where Mahaprabhu is happy, very happy to see Sanatana Goswami. They embrace, and but Mahaprabhu keeps on glancing at this expensive item of clothing that Sanatana Goswami has around him. And Sanatana understands that Mahaprabhu is giving him a hint. Like, hint, hint, I'm looking at this. You're supposed to be a mendicant. You're living by going house to house, begging a little bit of rice, a little bit of milk. But you're wearing a 50,000-pound shawl. It doesn't make sense. He said, So Sanatana Goswami understood that he needed to get rid of this shawl. And it will be explained how he does this in the coming verses. So we'll continue from text. Excuse me. We'll continue from text 82. Sanatanera vairagye prabhura ananda apara bhauta kambala pane prabhu chahe bare bara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt unlimited happiness to observe Sanatana Goswami's strict following of the principles of sannyas. However, he repeatedly glanced at the woolen blanket Sanatana Goswami was wearing. Sanatana janila e prabhure nabaya bhauta tyaga kare bare chintila upaya. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was repeatedly glancing at this valuable woolen blanket, Sanatana Goswami could understand that the Lord did not approve of it. He then began to consider a way to give it up. Eta chintigela gangaya madhyana karite eka gaudiya kanta duna diya che sukaite. In this way, thinking in this way, Sanatana went to the bank of the Ganges to bathe. While there, he saw that a mendicant from Bengal had washed his own quilt and spread it out to dry. Tara kahe ore bai kara upakare e bauta lana e kanta de hamore. Sanatana Goswami then told the Bengali mendicant, "My brother, please do me a favor. Trade me your quilt for this woolen blanket." Se kahe rahasya kara pramani kahana bahumulya bota diba kena kantalana. The mendicant replied, "Sir, you are a respectable Brahmin. Why are you joking with me? Why would you trade your valuable blanket for my torn old quilt?" Tenho kahe rahasyanahe kahe satyavani botalaha tumi deha modakantakani. Sanatan said, "I'm not joking, I'm speaking the truth. Kindly take this blanket in exchange for your torn old quilt." Etabali kanta laila bota tanredia goshanera tani aila kanta galedia. Saying this, Sanatan Goswami exchanged the blanket for the quilt. He then returned to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with the old quilt on his shoulders. Prabhu kahe tomara bota kambala kota gela Prabhu pade sabad kata goshani kahila. When Sanatan Goswami returned, the Lord asked, "Where is your woolen blanket?" Sanatan Goswami then narrated the whole story to the Lord. Prabhu kahe iha ami kariyachi vichara vishaya roga kandaila Krishna ye tomara se kene rakibe tomara shesha vishaya boga roga kande sadvadiya narake shesha roga. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, "I have already deliberately considered this matter. Since Lord Sri Krishna is very merciful, he has nullified your attachment for material things. Why should Krishna allow you to maintain a last bit of material attachment? After vanquishing a disease, a good physician does not allow any of the disease to remain." Tina mudrara bota gaya madhu kare grasa dharmahani haya loka kare upahasa. It is contradictory to practice madhukari, begging from door to door for food, and at the same time wear a valuable blanket. One loses his spiritual strength by doing this, and one will also become the object of jokes. Gosani kahe ye kandila kuvishaya boga tanra ichaya gela moda shesha vishaya roga. Sanatan Goswami replied, "The Supreme Personality of Godhead has saved me from the sinful life of material existence. By his desire, my last piece of material attraction is now gone." Prasana hana prabhu tanre kripa kaila tanra kripaya prashna karite tanra shakti haila. Being pleased with Sanatan Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed his causeless mercy upon him, and by the Lord's mercy, Sanatan Goswami received spiritual strength to inquire from him. And this is another good point. The first, some interesting illuminations, points here to be understood. One is the eagerness to give up attachment to material objects which may not be conducive for one's service life. And another, that by the Lord's grace one can actually know how to go forward in their spiritual lives. So in this context, in this exact case, Sanatan Goswami is said to have given the intelligence to inquire properly. And asking a good question is very important. Why? Because it shows that one is understanding or inquiring, considering a subject matter, and considering a way forward to navigate their way forward spiritually. And to do that, they ask questions so that the path can be illumined in front of them. And thus the importance of asking good questions shows that one is applying their intelligence to the process. And this is given in Bhagavad Gita, the verse that we all know, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnana jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Tadvidi pranipatena. Pranipatena means surrender. And then after pranipat, surrender, pariprashna. Prashna means question. So surrender, and then the question. You ask questions. So it's through the process of surrender that one is able to actually conceive of good questions to ask. That surrender infuses the mind with spiritual life, which then causes it to seek further knowledge. A person asking good questions shows that they're considering the subject matter. They're interested in the subject matter. They want to learn more. They want their spiritual path ahead to be illuminated. So this is the Lord's mercy that comes through surrender. So Sanatana Goswami has performed an act of surrender by donating his blanket, by renouncing his blanket. And thus the Lord's mercy has come to him, and he is asking intelligent questions now as a result of the mercy of the Lord. Being pleased with Sanatana Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed his causeless mercy upon him. By this mercy, Sanatana Goswami received the spiritual strength to inquire from him. So, pranipatena, then pariprashna. And from the prashna, then comes service. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Purvayaiche raya pashe prabhu prajna kaila. Tanra Shaktye Ramananda Tanra Uttaradila. Ihan Prabhura Shaktye Prajna Kare Sanatana Apane Mahaprabhu Kare Tattva Nirupana. Formerly, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Roy spiritual questions, and by the Lord's causeless mercy, Ramananda Roy could properly reply. Now, by the Lord's mercy, Sanatana Goswami questioned the Lord, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally supplied the truth. So in all these spiritual dialogues, they're fueled by the mercy of the Lord. In the former case, as Kaviraj Goswami here is noting in the Ramananda Samvad, which is given in chapter 7 of the Madhya Lila. Is it chapter 7? I think it is. Of the Madhya Lila. It's 4 or 7, it escapes me right now. That Ramananda Roy's answers were being provided, expressed as a result of the mercy of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And in this case, Sanatana Goswami's questions are being asked also as a result of stimulation coming from the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in both cases, whether it be questions or answers, both are a product of the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna Swarupa Madhuryais Varya Bhakti Rashas Rayam Tattvam Sanatana Yesha Kripayo Padidesha Saha. Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, personally told Sanatana Goswami about Lord Krishna's real identity. He also told him about the Lord's conjugal love, his personal opulence, and the mallows of devotional service. All these truths were explained to Sanatana Goswami by the Lord himself out of his causeless mercy. Tabe sanatana prabhura charane darya dainya vinate kare dante trinalana. Putting a straw in his mouth and bowing down, Sanatana Goswami clasped the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and humbly spoke as follows. Nicha jate nicha sange patita adama kuvishaya kupe pari gonainu janama. Sanatana Goswami said, I was born in a low family, and my associates are all low-class men. I myself am fallen, and I am the lowest of men. Indeed, I have passed my whole life fallen in the well of sinful materialism. He's expressing his great humility in the mood of karpanya, which is kind of a lamenting one's condition. I'll read the purport here by Srila Prabhupada. Actually, purport. Actually, Sri Sanatana Goswami belonged to a Brahmin family because he belonged to the Saraswat division of the Brahmanas and was well cultured and well educated. Somehow or other, he accepted a ministership in the Muslim government. Therefore, he had to associate with meat-eaters, drunkards, and gross materialists. Sanatana Goswami considered himself fallen, for in the association of such men, he had also fallen victim to material enjoyment. Having passed his life in that way, he considered that he had wasted his valuable time. This statement about how one can become fallen in the material world is made by the greatest authority in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Actually, the whole world is presently fallen into material existence. Everyone is a meat-eater, drunkard, woman hunter, gambler, and whatnot. People are enjoying material life by committing the 4 basic sins. Although they are fallen, if they simply submit themselves at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they will be saved from their sinful reactions. End of purport. Apanara hita kichui najani gramya vyavahare pandita thai satyamani. Sanatana Goswami continues, I do not know what is beneficial for me and what is detrimental. Nonetheless, in ordinary dealings, people consider me a learned scholar, and I am also thinking of myself as such. Kripa kari yari more kariyacha udara apana kripate kaha katarvya amara. Out of your causeless mercy, you have delivered me from the materialistic path. Now, by the same causeless mercy, please tell me what my duty is. Kene amaya jare tapatraya iha nahi jane kemani hitahaya. Who am I? Why do the 3-fold miseries always give me trouble? If I do not know this, how can I be benefited? And the 3-fold miseries are yes, and what are they?
Misery is caused by one's own mind and body. Misery
which
is
is
caused by others, people, mind and bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And natural disturbance like flood, earthquake, volcanoes, whatever.
Yes. And yes, did you say other living entities as well?
Yeah.
So, Adi Atmik, Atma represents oneself, so miseries that are arising from within and are expressed in the mind and the body, so mental ill health and physical ill health, Adi Atmik disorders. Adi Daivik, Daiva means the demigods, the devas, Adi Daivik. So the forces of nature which are controlled by the demigods. Environmental factors that are non-living. So, yeah, fires, earthquakes, etc. Natural disasters. Climate was too hot or too cold. And then Adi-Baltic, which is the disturbances caused by those other living entities, both human and animal. So, if an XL bully comes and attacks you, that's an Adi-Baltic, Adi-Baltic problem. Or if a mosquito bites you. Or even if you're stuck in a traffic jam, that's Adi-Baltic. It's like, come on, drive, you stupid people. Hurry up. So anyway, there's a huge scale of the severity of such disturbances, but the point being is that they're always there, they're completely unavoidable. And as the Gita says, Matra sparsas tukunteya sitoshna sukha dukkha da. Sukha dukkha sukha, happiness, distress, they're constantly alternating. Agama payino nityas tamstatikshas for bharata. So there needs to be a certain amount of tolerance of these. And at the same time, that tolerance, with the tolerance comes a desire to do away with such alternating sensations of pleasure and pain forever, and establish oneself in a position of happiness which is conducive to one's well-being. So Sanatana Goswami says, who am I? And why do these threefold miseries always give me trouble? I don't know. I don't know this. So he's admitting his position of helplessness. And this is known as the first step that is necessary in the process of surrender, in the spiritual process, which is characterized, the first step is characterized as surrender. But surrender is preceded by a disillusionment with anything that will obstruct the surrender. So anything that entices one to feel that they have prospect in the world of physical enjoyment, whatever it might be, and whatever might facilitate that physical enjoyment, or the psychophysical, the enjoyment of the mind, the intellect, the senses. So psycho-intellectual physical enjoyments. So money can facilitate that. So whatever people think that the pursuit of material happiness, whatever can facilitate that, once they've become disillusioned with that, that's the precursor to surrender. And this is being expressed by Sanatana Goswami. He says, I don't know this. How can I be benefited? Why are these threefold miseries giving me trouble? So he's expressing his disillusionment. And this is from Sanatana Goswami, who was in a position to enjoy everything. He had colossal sums of money at his disposal. People at that time in the government could enjoy much better. They have to do it in secret now. Back then, it was considered your right. If you were in that position of high government authority, you could do whatever you wanted. And it was socially appropriate. The scope for enjoyment at those times was actually higher than what it is today. So he's coming from a place where the whole world was his oyster, so to speak. And he let it go. Disillusionment. And now this whole chapter is about that process of being disillusioned with the idea that there's some kind of golden horizon waiting for us, some kind of prospect, just tomorrow or just later, sometime in the future, everything is going to be hunky-dory. This known as a mirage psychology, just a little bit further on and my thirst will be quenched. So, becoming aware of that, being realistic, pragmatic, realizing that the disillusionment with such a fantastical idea is the very real step that immediately precedes the Sharanagati process. And this is being exhibited in the history of Sanatana Goswami. So he has approached Mahaprabhu and he's going through this process of surrender. He's given up his last item of material comfort, this expensive blanket, and he's expressing his disillusionment with material life, and he's asking for instruction. So tadvidi pranipatena, he's surrendered, and now he's pariprashnena, he's asking for instruction, and then of course sevaya, which is what happens, of course, as we know, the service of Sanatana Goswami in Vrindavan. So we can finish there. Jai Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. We'll read a little bit from Revealed Truth by Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj. We'll read a couple of paragraphs. So this is a subchapter titled The Ocean of Sin. In the chapter titled Pure Devotion. When Krishna, So the chapter, the theme, the Dasmula theme is pure devotion, and the chapter is titled Spiritual Evolution. When Krishna tells the conditioned souls, leave not your irreligion, but your religion also, which is the verse, Sarvadam Prityaja Mamekam Sharanam Raja. Sarva Dharma, all what you consider Dharma, religion. Surrender, mam ekam, eka, only to me, mam ekam. Singularly. Then a conditioned soul may ask, if I leave behind my pious activities which are good for everyone in this world, then only my sinful activities will remain. So, will I be left in a sinful position with nothing good to show for myself? This question can be answered by understanding that the whole material world where the conditioned souls live is actually an ocean of sin. It is a world constructed for the sinful souls who are averse to the Lord. Krishna boli se jiva anadi bahir mukha. Generally, we know what sin is. It is a very simple thing. A sin is something unlawful in this world. But here in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Krishna teaches a deeper idea. Krishna teaches that sin actually means not done for the Lord's satisfaction. He teaches that even pious activity is actually sinful if it is not done for the Lord's satisfaction. What the jiva souls do in the material world is very simple. They eat, they sleep, they fear, and they enjoy. Ahara nidra bhaya maitunam cha. This is the simple summary of all the conditioned souls' activity. These activities may be done very piously by conditioned souls, but Krishna's final teaching in Srimad Bhagavad Gita is that if these activities are not done with Krishna consciousness, if they are not done for the satisfaction of Krishna, then they are actually sin. Although they may be done in a way that is harmonious externally with the material world, they are actually the cause of bondage in the illusory environment if they are not dedicated to Krishna. It is written in the Vedas, Vedanta, Upanishads, and so on, that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. In Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself says this. Many times in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Krishna identifies himself as the Lord. He declares, Aham hi sarva yagyanam bhakta cha prabhur eva cha natu mam abhijananti tatvenatas jyavanti te. 924. Bhagavad Gita 924. I am the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the rightful enjoyer of everything. The conditioned souls who do not recognize me fall into the bondage of Maya. When Krishna says, Aham tvam sarva papabhyo mokshayishyami, I will liberate you from all sins, he means that he will liberate you from the sinful world of Maya, from the world where it is a sin just to exist. In this way, Krishna shows the conditioned souls that all of their activity, even pious or general religious activity, is actually sinful if it is not done as surrendered service to his lotus feet. He also shows the conditioned souls that if they consciously enter the platform of transcendental service, then they can play there happily with no fear. Masuchaha. Only when the jiva souls surrender to Krishna and serve him with their full energy, Mam mana bhavamad bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru, they will find proper adjustment in life. And that is true yoga. So just to clarify, when Gurudev says that even existence in this world is sinful, he's saying that even existence in this world with its concomitant actions, we exist, we're looking for happiness, we act in pursuit of that happiness, that actually produces suffering. The reaction produces suffering. It's against our nature, which is a loving devotion to Krishna, the supreme beauty. So in that sense, it's sin. If we define sin as something which is against our own well-being, works against our own interest, then that's sin. So all life, all selfish action in this world, just as our very existence in this world and the acts we perform in pursuit of happiness, are actually detrimental to our happiness. So they qualify as sin. Jai Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj, Gurudev Ki Jai.
quite hard to understand. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yes.
I just want to say, quite hard to understand for the regular common person that things like charitable activities, feeding the hungry, or doing all these things, are sinful activities. Because it seems like nice and pious and kind and thoughtful and all that, you know.
Yes.
But you can do these things, but you need to feed the hungry with prasadam.
Yes. Ultimately, what it comes down to is the motive, the intent of the action. As we know, we've all heard the example of two people may have a knife, a sharp knife, and a surgeon will use that knife to perform a surgery, to mend a broken bone perhaps, or whatever. And a demented criminal will use that knife to kill or injure someone. So it may be the same knife, but due to the intent, the consciousness, the person's condition of consciousness determines their intent. The effect is very different. The same object is the same, the knife. There's a person holding the knife. There's a person, a subject, experiencing some kind of effect of that knife, but the one effect is constructive and the other is destructive, because the intent of the persons is different. So if you go and feed the hungry, if you do it with an intent, a selfless intent, then it will qualify as karma yoga. And karma yoga is not bhakti, but karma yoga does not produce any further karma. So it will work towards exhausting your karmic debt. Any kind of karma built up as a debt in your karmic account, so to speak, will be gradually reduced because you're not creating new karma. But generally people perform good works for some result. So that's karma of a different variety. It's not karma yoga, but it's karma kanda, where one is expecting future enjoyments as a result of making other people happy. The idea being you get equal but opposite of what you give out. So if you make other people happy, you're going to be happy later yourself. So if you go and build hospitals and help the needy and etc., you're making them happy. You're alleviating their suffering. And if you do it with the motivation that that's going to kick back to you at a later date, then it will, but you will be bonded by that. You are obliged to experience that. And then what are you going to do with that fortunate position that you find yourself in later on? Are you going to abuse it? Will that be the source of further bondage for you? What are you going to do with all the money that you get as a result of making other people happy? You're going to have the resources to make yourself happy. What are you going to do with that? Are you going to get distracted by that, enamored by that? Is it going to distract you from your spiritual potentials which lead to actual happiness? So in that sense, it's sin. It's a different flavor.
Yeah.
It's not sin as going and, killing someone's cat or, exploiting someone, grossly exploiting someone, or disturbing the environment, committing a crime. But still, it's a different flavor. It's a little more complex. But if it leads to your own further bondage, which is equivalent to your own continued unhappiness, then it's a transgression against your own personal interest, and that's sin. It's leading to it's working against your own welfare, which is not good.
Yeah.
If it's not good, then it's sin. So it all depends on the motive of the person. Now, the person can do the same thing, but they can do it with a motivation of bhakti. So if their consciousness is infused with bhakti, then they can perform that same action, but it's as an offering to Krishna or Krishna's devotees. And then it's completely different. And not just as not creating punya, which is pious credits, good karma, so to speak. And it's not just exhausting one's karma, as is the case with karma yoga, but it's creating bhakti, it's creating spiritual wealth. It's not creating any new karmas, material karmas, but it's creating the imperishable, permanent wealth of bhakti. So it all depends on the consciousness and the motivation of the person performing the activities. But yes, it can be difficult. Initially it seems that, what part doing good things in this world? Those without any idea of what bhakti actually is have difficulty understanding such a concept. Because you can only see it for what it is if you are viewing it from the eagle-eyed view of bhakti, knowing about the supremacy of bhakti. And then you can put it in its relative context, in its correct relative position. If you do not have that, viewing it through the lens of awareness of bhakti, then your myopic vision will see doing good works as the pinnacle of good activity, and thus it cannot be criticized. So why is Krishna saying give it up? You won't be able to understand such a concept unless you are aware of the concept of bhakti, which is always preceded by surrender. That verse is all about surrender, right?
I suppose that would follow through then. You can never give anything up unless you receive something higher to replace it.
Well, of course, that's Guru Maharaj talking about exploitation, renunciation, and dedication. Some yogis will renounce it. They say it's going to cause us pain, exploitation. So we just give it up, go live in the forest or in the Himalayas, or by oneself, secluded somewhere, not performing any actions, renunciation. And again, that in itself would seem as a logical reaction. If something is causing you suffering, stop doing it, cease action. And that would be logical for someone, again, without the awareness of bhakti, whose perspective was not informed by bhakti, knowledge of bhakti. It could seem like the best course of action. But someone who is aware of the effect of bhakti in developing a relationship with the Supreme Krishna, the All-Beautiful, from that position, everything else is put in its proper context. So renunciation is saying, okay, it might stop the suffering, but does it produce pleasure to the potential that we're capable of experiencing? Definitely not. Good acts may initially seem to alleviate our suffering or alleviate others' suffering, and then through karmic reaction give us good experiences. But it is simply adding fuel to a karmic cycle, which is inevitably characterized by ups and downs, pleasure and pain, pleasure mixed with pain. So although a certain amount of material sacrifice, sacrificing your time and money, etc., for the welfare of others, will cause in the future others to do the same for you, what is it? It's just a cycle of attempting to temporarily ameliorate the sufferings of the environment in which we have found ourselves. And it will do that, but it's no long-term solution. It's like taking an analgesic for chronic pain, right? It might temporarily help, but it's not going to cure the disease which is causing that chronic pain. If you have the tools to cure the disease, then do it. And those tools are at the disposal of one with an awareness of bhakti, the ability of bhakti to do away with all the problems at the root, rather than meddle in short-term.
Bhakti is so rare in this world, Prabhu, to be able to, it's only Gurudev's grace can give us that vision.
Sure. And we will see this in the coming chapter on Chaitanya Charitamrita. This exact thing is said. It will be in the next few verses by Mahaprabhu to Rupa Goswami. He says of all the moving and non-moving jivas, some of them are moving, and of all the moving ones, only a fraction are humans, and of all the humans, only a fraction follow the Vedas, and all the people that follow the Vedas, only a fraction are sincere, and all those that are sincere, only a fraction come to bhakti, and all those that come to bhakti, only a fraction are successful.
The rarest of the rare of the rare.
Yeah.
1 in 100 million or something, yeah.
We might come to that verse tomorrow, we'll see. Or perhaps when is Vishaka coming? Day after tomorrow, so maybe she will cover that verse. It's just a few verses along. Yeah, but not to be pessimistic by that. It's just that this is to illustrate the supremacy of bhakti and its valuable nature in terms of something that is extremely valuable. It's generally very rare. So Mahaprabhu says this, but we must appreciate it in the context of Mahaprabhu's mission, and that is breaking open the storehouse of something very rare and flooding it out. Also via the agency of Nityananda Prabhu. So
that's actually very hopeful.
Yes.
Actually,
Yeah, so although Mahaprabhu is saying it's very, very rare and very fine and very great secret, like liberation is the default conception of God. Your karma is finished, what happens? The soul merges into the Brahman consciousness. This is the default conception. The Krishna conception is something that must be activated through contact with someone that already has it. That's why the Vaishnava is considered all in all. So it's not going to happen by default. It needs to happen by the agency of someone connected with Krishna. The Bhagavan conception, which finds its refinement in the Krishna conception, does not happen by default. Brahman realization can. It's the default conception of God. So in that sense, like the Krishna conception, you can say almost it's beyond God. You have generic God, then you have the specific Krishna conception of God.
So Prabhu, all those people who, all these disasters in the world and everything, all these people that give up everything to go and help all these other people that are suffering with all these various disasters.
Yes.
Would that be, and they're not expecting any reward, would that be karma yoga?
Yes, that's karma yoga. Indeed. Yeah. And they will elevate themselves spiritually somewhat. Krishna discusses karma yoga in the Bhagavad Gita. It's a legitimate process for advancing spiritually. So we have to be careful denigrating it, because, it's not to be denigrated because these people have genuine desire to help. If they're, to the degree that they're looking for some kind of reward, is to that same degree it's not karma yoga. If they're looking for some kind of status, if they're looking to be celebrated in some way as a humanitarian, get their name in the paper, receive a medal from the government, whatever, to be rewarded, or even in a more gross way, to be rewarded financially or to have their career status improved. Often you'll find these days that a person on the surface, they may appear very philanthropic, and they may express to you that they have pure motive, but if you scratch the surface, there's other factors at play. They're looking for some kind of, even if it's very subtle, they're looking for some kind of prestige. They're looking to be glorified as a saint. Oh, you've sacrificed for other people. How good you are. So that's not karma yoga. It's contaminated subtly. But still, if it's done with pure motive, then it is karma yoga for sure. And karma yoga can help to purify one if someone is bogged down with these karmic samskars that are compelling them to exploit. Then karma yoga can weaken those samskars and leave room for clean their consciousness so that they can appreciate higher spiritual concepts such as bhakti. So it can be a stepping stone towards bhakti. I mean, it's given in the Bhagavad Gita. It's listed there before bhakti yoga. So it can help, but it's not an intrinsic part of the bhakti process. It's not necessary. The bhakti process is complete in and of itself. It doesn't require karma yoga as any kind of precursor. Yeah. Jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Does anyone want to sing Hari Haraya? You want to sing, Tariq?
Sure.
It is page. Oh, you have some books. Why haven't the curtains opened yet? It's a little strange.
Hari Hari Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Hari Hari Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra. Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Rupa Sanatana Jai Svadhikara Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Giridhara Ji Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmal Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Sri Guru Dev Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sri Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Rupanuga Guru Varg Ki Jai. Vishva Varanya Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samaveda Vaishnav Mandala Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan